everyone.
Ready? Okay, everyone set? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Borough Council meeting of the Borough of Peapack And Gladstone. It is now 7 o'clock p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the 2024 meeting dates was published in the Courier News and the Burnsville News on December 25th, 2023, and posted at the Municipal Complex in the Borough Library. Action may be taken.
I'd like to ask everyone, and out of respect for these proceedings, to please silence or do not disturb on your cell phones as I just did. And then would you please stand and join me in the flags? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It has to be red or
Red.
yeah, red. Okay. Roll call, please, Nancy.
Councilman Portello.
Here.
Councilman Silva.
Here.
Councilwoman Sueda. Here. Council President Sweeney.
Here.
Councilwoman Weigel. Here. Mayor Corigliano.
Here. Okay, let's move on to public comments. These public comments are for non-agenda items only. It is our policy that all comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person, please. Comments may be made on any non-agenda item pertaining to borough issues. Comments pertaining to public hearings or sections of the agenda will be addressed at the end of the meeting. No debating between residents, please. Comments are addressed to the mayor and council at the microphone. If you do approach the microphone and have a comment, name, address, and city, please. So, non-agenda items.
Good evening. Mary Lynn Chiapi, 106 Worley Road, Long Valley, New Jersey. Former resident of Peapack. I was looking through the work order that you signed with the USDA. On page 7, paragraph 3, you certified that you use non-lethal methods to manage the Canada geese, and you agree to use non-lethal methods going forward. My question is, why then did you sign a 5-year contract to gas the geese? Okay, that's one question. And the other question is, you do state in the work order that you used, several methods, but is it documented anywhere exactly what you used, when you used it, how long you used it for? I think that's something that actually the public would like to know.
So, Steve, do you have any comment on the first item?
I don't have the contract with me. I assume by work order you're referring to the contract, not the.
Well, let me address
some highlighted pages.
That's okay.
It's the work.
Let me address it. As far as the contract goes, the contract is a 5-year contract renewable yearly, and we were advised by the USDA that once the culling occurs, that we agree to keep non-lethal methods in place to prevent a flock from returning. And the USDA advice to the borough was that if you do these remediation measures effectively, you will not have a geese problem in the future, and it's simply won't be able to gas geese.
Okay, but you signed a 5-year contract. So, but you're saying you don't have to go forward with it.
That's correct.
Okay.
If we're satisfied, we won't use the USDA next year.
Okay, and what about the methods that you
If the
use?
geese are here next year, of course, we're going to look to contract the USDA.
Okay,
Up until the park renovation, we were using the geese police.
oh, you weren't?
Yes. It's nice when people come in the floors. After the park was redone, we instituted the lasers. So that's probably almost 2 years ago.
Sweet.
Like lasers?
The lights.
Lights.
Yeah, the flashing lights. After that, the flashing lights didn't work. We started using an organic spray as well. That was all within basically the same time frame, the last 2 years.
In addition to fencing, replanting, we caught geese police, right?
Yes.
Okay. And also prior DPW superintendent going and chasing with a shotgun.
Yes.
With a shotgun?
They shot it into the air. That was 20 years ago.
With blanks. Okay. To answer your second question, if you wanted to consult on the remediation measures, they've been discussed at council meetings extensively. You have to look back at our last 5 years of minutes, which are very long. Okay. Anyone else for public comment, please?
Jennifer Douglas, 200 Old Army Road, Burnsville, New Jersey. Good evening, everyone, community members, and thank you again for allowing me to speak on the topic of the geese at Liberty Park. First and foremost, I really do want to thank you for exploring the possibility of relocating the geese, because I know that you did that in good faith. And we really, really do appreciate that. I know that Fish and Wildlife will not issue a permit for relocation. I do want to just mention the story of that supposedly proves that geese will return to the location after relocation, where they were moved. 400 geese were moved from New York to South Carolina and flew back after the truck. So that has been told by the USDA for decades. And I've heard the story myself from experts over and over, always with the punchline, they must have taken United Airlines since they were molting. So regardless, we've been saying this over and over. All we want is for implementation of best practices, not just a flashing light or a spray from off the shelf at Home Depot. We want best practices implemented effectively. And that's all we're asking for. All research shows that when geese are gassed, the void is filled within weeks. Even a study by U.S. Fish and Wildlife states that. It is an ineffective method and brutal. Senseless killing is not what Peapack Gladstone should be about. I've researched a lot of best practices. One of them is Goosebusters. I spoke to him today. He's been calling you, Mayor Grigliano, for months now, asking to be heard about his method, and he has not heard any response.
Goosebusters never called me. He sent emails to us and emails.
Okay, emails. Okay, so also, we are once again presenting volunteers. We have 20 volunteers to clean the park weekly so that the park is usable even when geese are present. We are also going to organize training for egg addling for our volunteers so that you do not have to use taxpayer dollars to contract with the USDA to do that. So we are saving you money and creating solutions. We want Peapack Gladstone to maintain its brand as a community that listens to its residents and is compassionate. Also, I'm very excited to say that I found an award-winning filmmaker and documentarian that is going to be working on this project. And so Peapack Gladstone will be highlighted in our documentary, and I'd love you to be highlighted as a shining example of working with the community with effective problem solving and good old-fashioned American ingenuity. Let's work together. That's all we're asking. Please cancel the contract. Work with us. We're well informed. We're well connected. We have solutions. We want to work with you. Thank you.
Next for this gentleman right here.
Hello, my name is Ben Lotka. I live at 319 North 11th Street. Philadelphia, PA 19107. Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members, community members. I'm a stonemason from Philadelphia, and I just drove 2 hours to be here after laying brick all day long in the sun. And to be honest with you, I'd rather be at home right now sitting on the couch, drinking a nice cold beer, watching the Phillies game with my family. But I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. There's a lot that's said. I've never been to Peapack. I've never been to Gladstone. I've never been to Liberty Park, but I stopped there just before coming over here. And it's a beautiful park. You're lucky to have it. But I have to say that I didn't see any geese. And the truth is, I don't know much about birds. I'm not a bird watcher. I'm not a bird lover. But what I do know is that killing those geese is morally wrong. And there have been similar problems in my state, in Pennsylvania, in Bloomsburg, in East Buffalo Township, and they found a way to use non-lethal methods, and they didn't see killing as a solution. So I'm asking you to do the right thing. I hope you'll decide to do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming up to Philadelphia to join us.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Wendy Rustelli. I currently live in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. I used to live in Peapack And Gladstone. And my question is, have you tried the geese police to get rid of
We used them for several years. We stopped using them when the construction of the park started. The reconstruction renovations.
Because it's been very successful in my
It
county.
wasn't very successful for us, to be honest.
I find that
They came back.
I find that really hard to believe. You have to keep doing it as the platform. Okay, that's first. Second of all, you talked about the bacteria. Well, then you should get rid of the fox, the raccoons, the fish, the frogs, and the turtles. Because they all carry bacteria and they all defecate and pee and whatever, either in the pond or around the pond. Okay? So I just find it really sad that this is your answer, is to kill and what's going to happen when the next flock comes in? Are you going to exterminate them also? It's a yes or no question.
The answer is that when this flock is remediated, we hope that the remediation measures that we will have in place and being done consistently will prevent that future flock from coming in quite a bit.
And so why wasn't that done prior to the birds losing their flight feathers?
Why wasn't one done?
Whatever you're planning to do to
It was
them.
done.
You came in a little bit late,
It was done.
but we were using the lights and the spray approximately for the last 2 years in the fall.
So if it didn't work on this flock, how's it going to work on the next flock?
This flock is resident. They're not migratory.
I know that. Most of Canada's around here are resident. Very few are migratory.
If they're new, then the deterrents may very well work. But the ones that are here that have nests here,
They're not going to leave now because they have nests.
Our consulting biologists advise us, once this population is remediated, because they're resident, if we have the right measures in place, a flock will not land and reside here anymore. That is the information from true experts that we are going on.
And my question was, why wasn't that done earlier?
It was done earlier and they didn't leave.
Well, obviously it wasn't done correctly.
No, it was done correctly.
They would have left.
We've been doing it regularly.
Well, again, I find it very hard to believe because I've seen it work. I've seen the border collies work.
I
We
don't
had
know.
over
I
1,000
don't know, we
geese.
talked to a number of tenants at geese problems, and we told them we tried to spray, they don't work at the risk. They all agreed with us, including the biologists.
I live in a
So,
condominium.
I don't wanna get into it with the back and forth, so,
Well,
but I wanted to give you an answer, and that's it.
well, actually, it really didn't answer me other than the fact that you said it didn't work, but it should have worked and it should work. So I find this group pretty sad.
Thank you.
Hi, Jacqueline Braun, 63 Main Street in Peapack. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Journey Through Peapack history book. In this, it speaks 1955. Mrs. Edgar Rosenblatt donated a pair of swans to the town, gifted. It speaks in this historic book through the 100 years of the ducks, geese, and swans that have graced Liberty Park. You want to uphold the history of Peapack. You keep it a park we all can enjoy with wildlife. And our offer to clean the park, in the newspaper yesterday, the mayor had stated that he would not allow us to have volunteers to come and clean the park because it would be a liability. And I wanted to find out if we presented you with a letter from my lawyer we would all sign, that if we trip and fall, I don't know, some women over 40 want to clean the park, if that would be acceptable to the town for us to do that.
Other than verbal commitments to the borough, we have had no formal print offers or proposals to have volunteers come and clean our park.
How would,
Actually,
Let me finish, please.
yes, of course.
Okay? We're likely not to accept such a proposal because it presents a major liability issue for the borough. We don't even want our own employees picking up people now. Okay? Let me finish, please.
Yep.
Okay? So you're welcome to submit a proposal to us. We seriously consider it, but we're very unlikely to allow volunteers to come in and pick up.
What would you consider a formal proposal? A letter from my lawyer for us to
Formal
sign?
proposal, like
Okay.
you were gonna do a proposal and propose something.
And if we all sign it, we would hope that you would accept that offer for,
Like I said, we're unlikely to accept it because of the major liability that puts the borough.
about duck
Having
or geese
volunteers.
excrement?
Yeah.
Or
having
tripping and falling?
all of the above.
Oh,
So,
I work with my hands all day. I'm a mechanic. I'm not afraid to get dirty, and I'm sure not afraid of geese.
I'm not
So I
suggesting
hope
that,
hope you accept that offer.
but I also hope you understand that the borough just can't accept offers like that without careful consideration.
Well, we're gonna give it a try. Thank you.
Anyone else? Lady in the rear. Oh, Karen. Hi, Karen. Oh.
Karen Rogers, 7 West Avenue, Gladstone. I've been a resident since 1995. And I just asked the woman what geese police were, and she said it's border collies. And I've lived here since 95. I've never seen border collies in the park. So is there a way that you can show us who you paid to do that? Because, I mean, I think it would have been seen if there was border collies there. What year was that?
I can assure you, we started on the check, so we did have border, we did have geese.
What year was that?
Can't say offhand.
Could you publish that so we can see?
If you'd like to file an open request, you're welcome to, and you can get that.
Okay, because I've lived here since 95 and I've never seen or heard about that.
The first year that we used them was in 2006, at least, because there was an article in the Burnsville News Archives referencing that.
And how many border collies do they have?
I couldn't tell you how many geese, so it was the geese police, I don't know.
And did they come back like every day or?
They had to come several days in a row, is my
And
recollection.
it was about, at the time, this is a few years back, it was about $450 to $500 a visit. And now that's just an unsustainable cost over a period of years.
We have a lot of people with dogs in town that would be happy to let their dogs chase the geese. Just walk them down there and turn them loose.
That's the same liability issue, the dogs running loose. Creates a problem.
Well, long leash. Let them bark. Might do some good, might be kind of fun. Let the kids hit them with paintball guns. That might be different too.
That's not cruel though.
What?
That's not cruel.
No, I mean, I've been hit by paintball gun. I've been hit by airsoft guns.
Let's move on. We're not gonna allow paintballs in our parks.
All right.
Let's move on.
Actually, how about a wraparound dog park? Just around the border.
Get a resident.
Dog collar. Dog. There's lots of creative solutions.
Hi, I'm Connie Gilmore. I live in Lebanon Township, and I've been very interested in what's been happening here. I have a question for you. If there were another vote, I'm wondering how many of you might have changed your minds at this point about gassing the geese? Darn it. I apologize. I wonder how many of you might change your mind about gassing the geese if there were a second vote. Perhaps you sit here changed inside your head after all this going on for 3 months, the publicity that's out there, the news coverage, and now we're hearing about a film documentary. How do you want to come off in that documentary? You have the power to change your mind. You have the right to change your mind. People take in new information and you change your mind. It's not a weakness. It doesn't make the council any less respected.
Well, I suppose when we renew the contract next year, if we have to renew it next year, we'll see how the vote goes then. But for now, the contract's in place.
I'm
not
only,
going to debate it, but
this is not a debate. I am just responding to what you have said. Why not revote? Is it against council rules to have a second vote on something that's already been voted on? I don't think so.
not at all. Council members welcome to propose a vote.
Well, I hope one of you do it.
Do it.
Step forward and do it. Sleep better at night.
When we are satisfied that our health and safety issue in our park has been properly addressed, we will make decisions based on that at that point in time.
This is the decision you've already made. That's what that statement refers to. But look at the intervention that you have been offered. And are you not the least bit concerned about a film documentary and how you're all going to appear? It won't be favorable for this town. It will not be. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Barry Braun. I live at 63 Main Street in Peapack. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I have a question. The park and the pond has been there for about 100 years, is that correct?
That's about right.
What has changed?
I'm sorry.
There were geese there then, there were swans gifted to Peapack in the 1950s to go along with the geese, as the book says. Why are the geese a problem now? Why were they not a problem to the residents back then?
It's very simple, because back years ago, there were a handful of geese, if any, okay?
In the 1920s.
I don't know.
I know you don't know.
Okay, but let's say a couple years ago. Okay?
I'm not talking about a couple years ago.
Speaking.
Marcel, don't argue.
All right. Anyway, continue.
If you ask a question, would you allow an answer, or do you not want an answer?
I want an answer, but not a few years ago.
Then when you ask a question, you might want to let someone answer. If they're answering,
I want to know what.
So if you want to know the answer, I don't know how many geese were there in 1920.
Okay, or 30, 40, 50.
I don't know, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s.
And Mrs. Rosenblatt gifted 2 swans to the town, and we inquired, and swans are $3,000 for a pair. Would you accept a gift from my sister and I as residents of 2 swans?
The borough's not prepared to take swans at this point in time.
Why?
I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to answer that right now.
I didn't think so.
Anyone else?
My name is Elizabeth Jonah. I live at 7 Franklin Court in Burnsville, New Jersey. I'm going to be brief because I'm a little bit late, but I just wanted to ask that when you do these remediation measures, were you planning on engaging with the Animal Protection League to work on them? Because they are a resource you haven't had before, and I'm not sure if you're aware, or other people are, but the flock breed that you bought is actually not the one they recommended. They recommended the commercial grade, and they actually checked with the company, and you didn't buy it from them. So, like, we can't really say the deterrents didn't work because they weren't implemented as suggested. So, and I know that, you know, like geese or not, they want to help you just like you do to not have them come back. So if you work with them to put up the riparian buffer, which I kind of think is possibly even a safety help because people can't fall in the lake, in the pond, and also maybe put some less spittable grass on the island so it's not so comfortable for them to lay eggs. I think those would be huge things. So are you planning to work with the Animal Protection League to help them, you know, implement these measures that will work? Can anyone answer that?
I would tell you, no.
Really? No, why?
We had a landscape architect redesign the park. I had conversations with the Animal Protection League. They want 9-inch high grass that has birds on it instead of the lawn.
But any part of it. I mean, I think, because I think the buffer that's taller.
The geese are down, we are going to replace the riparian buffer.
To be tall, to be 2 feet tall.
That will be higher, yes, not
Higher, 2 feet tall. They have to be tall enough that they can't see over it without flying. Is that true?
I can't say it's going to be exactly 2 feet tall, but we want it to grow in like it was designed to by the architect that redesigned our park.
But in order not to get feedback, it will have to be tall enough for he's not to see over without flying. And actually, I don't know if I can ask you something, the lawyer. I'm assuming you looked at the contract that was signed with the USA. Is it something that they can cancel? Like, are they able to cancel it? I'm looking to your expertise.
I haven't looked at it again since March.
We'd be able to cancel it.
That's surprising because there's been so much talk about it. I would think you would have looked at it again since then. So you can't speak to it at all because you don't remember.
I'm happy to look at it again and to see if it is cancelable.
Yeah, it would be nice for the public to know that too. Yeah, so that would be great.
I think Councilperson Sweeney has answered this.
I
actually looked at it for that reason. And the answer is, if we don't have a peace problem, I think the contract comes up for renewal, we're likely not going to renew it. We don't need to spend the money.
Yeah, okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
Anyone else, please? This is Lane.
Carol Lane, 1 Hillard Lane from Gladstone. I just wanted to thank the borough representatives in front of me for upgrading the top lot. I know this isn't geese right now related, but bear with me. We installed a little free library right next to the top lot. We have permission from the borough to do so. And regularly I steward that little free library. That has unfortunately included cleaning up geese excrement from in front of the little free library because I don't want people coming to the library and having to stand there in it. I've been thrilled to see the number of children, parents, caregivers at the top lot since the new equipment has gone in. I've been a resident for 20 years and the activity there is greater than I've ever seen. So thank you for doing that and orchestrating it. The other thing I wanted to mention is I hear about the volunteers that you've orchestrated to clean the park. This problem extends beyond the park. There are feces that have been found on the sidewalk leading into the library, feces on the residential properties and sidewalk down on Main Street, 185, 187, 189, and so forth. The geese go to the municipal field where the children play. They also go to Vernon Manor across the street. It is not an isolated property problem. So even if the borough granted permission for them to clean the park, are they going to clean
Sure.
a
There's
section of
over
town?
100 of us, yes.
Oh, no, I'm not, you know,
I can install an engine, I can clean up duck crap.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. I just wanted
Sorry, no more interruptions.
to make sure that people in the audience who aren't from PG and haven't walked, you know, in these different properties realize the problem extends beyond the park. But, thank you.
Mrs. Lane, just two comments before you go. The first one is, we are very sensitive to the fact that we have many young children using the top 10 in our park. And the point you make is indeed very important to us. And the issues that the geese have caused in our park by overpopulation is a good part of what's driving our efforts here. We know we have young children there. We know that having them around the wild animals is not a safe condition. And that factors big into our actions. The second thing is, and I address this is in regards to our residents on Main Street in particular, and Willow Avenue, but a few other streets as well. Because we have gotten tremendous feedback from our residents of how the geese is affecting their lifestyles, ruining their properties, okay, and causing them troubles. And that factors into our thinking as well. This is not a simple issue. It's not simply an issue of maintaining a park in some manner to allow geese to live there. And if there were a handful of geese there, as there has been in past years, as I was trying to say earlier, I don't think we'd have any issue. The fact is, we have an overpopulation of geese in the park, and that is what we're looking to address.
And I'm convinced if the tot lot wasn't fenced in, we would not have the activity we do there, because the geese literally come right up into that area.
Well, you remember when we were doing the park rentals, that fence was a big issue about getting that in, in an attractive way in time.
I'm very thankful for how that turned out, and hopefully, you know, we'll just onward.
I have one comment though. The rec commission did all the heavy lifting on that, and the Somerset County commissioners kicked in the majority of the cost for the upgrades.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Anyone else, please? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comments portion of the meeting on non-agenda items, and we're going to move on to old business. Council members, we have nothing on the agenda. Do we have any old business to see now? It's not on the agenda. Seeing none, let's move on to new business. I thank you to the residents who remain here, who are here to hear our meeting. So this evening we have a short presentation by our Chief of Police, Stephen Brandy, and our Sergeant, Tom Scanlon. Gentlemen, will you come forward? Present away.
Good evening, Mayor and Borough Council. Thank you for granting Sergeant Scanlon the opportunity to present to you tonight our updated staffing analysis. We last came before you in April of 2022. At that time, we were in dire need of replacing an officer, which we lost from 2009 forward. We were able to hire, and we appreciate that, and thank you for that. At that time, when Sergeant Scanlon presented the data and then metadata that we were asked to present on our staffing in 2022, the numbers at that time showed that police department should be staffed with 10 patrol officers, which needs to be made very clear here. Patrol officers are uniformed personnel that you may see driving through your neighborhoods. They respond to a variety of calls, such as motor vehicle crashes, animal calls, domestic violence incidents, first aid calls. They assist our residents in many ways. They run radar. Every time we get a call about speeders, these are the officers that you see in your neighborhoods. Currently, I have 9 full-time officers and 1 part-time officer. That number includes me. Data provided in 2022, again, showed the need for 10 patrol officers. The number did not include me. Numbers we present today with our 2024 staffing update will show that we should be at 10 full-time patrol officers, which does not include me. this additional officer, we can continue to provide the same level of customer service to our residents that we have in the past. Our police department is the only agency in the borough which operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We work holidays, we don't close in bad weather. We respond to mental health issues, we dealt with weapons-related incidents, search residences from basement to the attic at all times of the day and night after a burglar alarm activation. We've had to make face-to-face notifications with relatives when loved ones have died. We deal with overdoses and medical trauma calls. We've also changed tires and light bulbs for people, shoveled snow for elderly residents, removed animals from homes, carried groceries in for our elderly residents, and provided assistance for our residents in many other ways in their time of need. Truly living by our motto, always a hand. We realize that council is data-driven. Sergeant Scanlon is going to provide you with numbers you're going to hear and see that support our request to hire an additional officer. Data, albeit important, is not the only reason that we're here before you tonight. There's more to our request than just numbers, graphs, and pie charts. Just as council has a financial responsibility to the residents and taxpayers of the borough. As your chief of police and head of this department, I have the responsibility of providing as much safety as possible for our residents and our police officers. Put it simply, I want our officers to go home to their loved ones after every shift. Additional manpower is paramount to that. We also need to take into account such things as population increase, which is on our horizon. There are about to be an increase of hundreds of people in the borough, which is going to cause additional calls, as well as more and more decision-making on our officers. As crime continues to increase, the level of crime that we experience increases. We used to go to domestic calls, and we would see an argument or a harassment complaint. We're now responding to assaults, property damage, etc. Officers respond many times by themselves and rely on backup from another town. We see more restraining orders being issued. We see more people going to the hospital. The last thing I want is for one of our officers to go in outnumbered when we walk into one of those situations, because we've all seen these videos of officers responding to those types of scenarios and what can happen in those scenarios when there's only one officer there. This will help us better staff. It's going to help us better cover and put more people on at the same time in a 24-hour period, which is very important to us. Sergeant Scanlon is now going to come up. He's going to provide you with the data. This is an objective, by the numbers, presentation that we're going to give you. The numbers will show that we are, based on the studies done, there should be 10 full-time patrol officers in addition to myself. Sorry.
Did you all have a copy? I have it for them. More copies?
Tom, you have a remote for the TV, you gotta turn them on. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so back in a couple years ago, I did a presentation for the mayor and council regarding the police staffing study. A few council members were not on the dais at the time, So the numbers have been updated to reflect the need for the 10th officer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, like the chief already stated, there's a bunch of incidents that the police officers respond to already, which the chief touched on. Those are up there right now. I'm not going to read through all of them. The chief already touched on those. I'm going to go through a couple demographics of the borough of Peapack and Gladstone, along with the staffing, current staffing with the police department, and then on to different models for doing staffing studies. And then finally, at the end, a little bit on retention and recruitment of municipal employees or police officers. All right, so our history. Yep.
Officer Duff, would you mind asking, sorry, Corporal Duff, would you
One of
mind?
the other officers are addressing.
They are? Okay, fine, I didn't see.
Sure. So our history with the Peapack Gladstone Police Department is prior to 1997, the Peapack Gladstone Police Department was staffed with 8 full-time officers, and that includes the chief of police. And a staffing study was conducted back then. All right, in 1999, the Peapack Gladstone Police Department increased to 9 full-time officers, and that was at the recommendation of the study that was conducted in 1997. So staffing levels remained at 9 full-time officers from 1999 to 2008, and in 2003, 2004, we actually went up to 11 officers, and that was 9 full-time officers, and then we had 2 Class 2 specials, which were part-time officers. All right, now part-time officers or Class 2s, they cannot work alone. They have to work with a full-time officer, as you may be aware. In 2008, an officer left to seek other employment and was not replaced, so the Peapack Gladstone Police Department was then staffed with 8 full-time officers, and in 2009, an officer retired, staffing dropped down to 7 full-time officers and 1 Class 2 special. 2012 brought on the hiring of the 1 full-time officer, and we were back to 8 full-time officers and the 1 Class 2. We remained at 8 full-time officers until April 1st, 2022, due to the resignation of an officer. Due to the resignation of the officer, it dropped back down to 7 officers. So that was a 30% reduction in staffing from our peak levels in 1999. So in 1999, we actually had 9 officers, which is what we're at now. That was 25 years ago, and we're still at the same staffing level. All right, crime has actually been on the rise, as council is aware, residents are aware. We've had break-ins, car burglaries, we've had stolen vehicles in town. The mayor and council worked on the ordinance about, suspicious individuals being in town. We're seeing an increase in suspicious individuals in town. Okay, the severity of the crimes have increased, just like the chief has said. Whereas when I first started here in 2000, a domestic violence incident was a mere verbal altercation between mom and dad, and now it's actually turned into physical assault, or simple assault, and sometimes up to aggravated assault. All right, current staffing right now is 9 full-time officers, and we have the 1 Class 2 special, and these numbers include the chief of police. All right, the Peapack Gladstone Police Department would like to hire again in order to bring the department back up to 10 full-time officers. So a couple demographics with the borough of Peapack and Gladstone. Obviously, we are located in Somerset County. The 2020 census puts our population at 2,582, which is about an increase of 1.98% since the 2010 census. It breaks down into race and ethnicity within the town: 77% white, 4% black, 3% Asian, 2% they consider as other. 14% of our population are Hispanic, and senior citizens represent 20%, and persons under the age of 18 represent 29%. And all that can be found on the local census. Households and housing is 829 housing units. In the borough, 2.7 persons per household, none of which are public housing projects. Median value of a single home, $874,358, and median household income, $183,125, and the average taxes are $15,069. So Peapack Gladstone is 5.7 square miles. We are comprised of 25.45 miles of roadway, which is 19 miles maintained by the borough, 5.1 miles by Somerset County, 2.3 miles by the state highway. So as you can see, we have a lot of roadways going through Peapack Gladstone, a lot of county roads and the state highway. The officers are big on traffic enforcement. That's probably one of the biggest concerns that we have in the borough is traffic and speeding. It's one of the many complaints that we get. We're also serviced by New Jersey Transit, one of the busiest lines, the Gladstone branch of the Morris Essex line. We have the Gladstone train station and the Peapack train station. Gladstone train station being the end of the line. Recently, there has been an increase in transient individuals coming into town. We have found some inside local churches. We've had some wandering the streets at night, causing concern to the the residents. And these are some of the calls that we're dealing with now. Whereas when I started back in 2000, we didn't really have that. But we're seeing an increase in these type of incidents also. The 2023 calendar year, we had 8 officers. We actually did 3 months in 2023 with 9 officers from January to March. And then we had lost 1 officer to another department. So in calendar year, most of the data that you're gonna see is from 2023, and then I also touched on 2022. And this is where we break it down into hours and officer availability. So there's 8,760 hours in a year. That's simple math. All right, 5,424 hours, an officer was alone. For 5,424 hours in the year, an officer worked alone, which is 61.91% of the time. So how did I come up with this? I asked Luke, because I am not good at this, to analyze the data from our schedule for the year. I sat him in front of the computer and said, "You're doing this, I'm not doing it." He broke it down month, day, hour, delegated. How many hours an officer was on duty alone, and the total hours spent alone. So he gave me all the data, and what did I do? I plug it into my descriptive statistics in Excel, and I come up with this chart. I don't know if everyone can see it, but at the top you see the mean, which is 14.86, which represents that an officer, on average, will work 14 hours by themselves. Break it down even further into my little chart here.
14, on average, will work 14 hours by themselves. In a week, in a day, in a month?
Per day, yes, on average.
But they're working 12 hours.
Multiple officers.
Right.
It's just the number of hours.
Two officers?
Could be 2, could be 3, but at some point, 14 hours of that day, there's only one officer working by themselves.
Okay.
Not just one officer.
All right, so 14 hours of every day. It's not every officer.
So it's only 10 hours a
by
day.
themselves, 14 hours.
Correct, yes. So 10 hours a day, there's 2 or more, but there's only one.
Okay, got it.
So in this chart, it breaks down a little more. If you go to where it's 24 hours, 68 times last year, or 2023, there was only one officer on shift in the borough in a 24-hour period. And I just, like the chief says, we don't work 24 hours, we work 12-hour shifts. So that's a day shift, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That officer goes home, night shift comes on at 6 p.m. and works 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's a 24-hour period. So 68 times last year, there was only one officer working in the borough. And it breaks it down further by hour in this chart, all the way down to 4 hours or 3 hours. So after doing that, I looked at different staffing models like I did last time, and there's 5 different staffing models to plug information into, and I'm going to go through those. There's the crime trends model, which basically means more crime equals more police, less crime equals less police. It's incentive for poor performance, and it's ineffective and rarely used. I can go out on the road, I'm going to go hide at Narrow Park, and I'm not doing anything. You know, let crime run rampant. Oh, look, crime's going up, we need more cops, because I'm not doing my job, okay? So it's incentive for poor performance, it's ineffective, it's not used. Authorized budgeted levels, predetermined level of staffing that fits the budget. This is the what can I afford. This is what the governing body, hey, we can only afford this many officers, that's all that we're going to have. And staffing becomes politicized and predicated on the artificial figure, political decision making. That's that model, which is ineffective. Minimum manning levels determined by past practice, policy, supervisory judgment, or all 3. Public safety, officer safety, hard and soft minimums. So a hard minimum is we have 2 officers working a shift. If one officer calls out or one officer takes vacation, we have to fill that position with overtime to maintain those 2 officers. A soft minimum, basically kind of what we have right now. If we have 2 officers working or 3 officers working, depending on shift change and everything else, if 2 of those officers want to take off and there's only one on, well, he's the only officer working and we're not filling it with overtime. That's what minimum staffing is, soft and hard. The 2 models that really make sense are the per capita approach, which is officers per 1,000, and the workload-based model. Now, there are disadvantages to the per capita approach, which I'll get into. A workload-based model is commonly used, but it's endorsed by the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the IACP. This relies on actual levels of demand. It relies on the examination of calls for service, results in comprehensive assessment of workload, and it's most accurate and reliable predicator of police staffing levels. This is what the officer is doing every day, every hour of the day. It's collecting all that data from what he's doing, whether it's traffic enforcement, property checks, answering calls, talking to people on the street, community events. That's your workload model. I'll get more into that. The FBI typically puts out what's called Table 71, which is the crime in the United States data furnished by the FBI, and it references populations in certain areas of the country. For our case here, it's going to be reference populations under 10,000 residents in the Northeast. The FBI data shows that there's, on average, there's 3.9 officers per 1,000 residents in the northeastern part of the United States, in towns less than 10,000. Now, the borough of Peapack and Gladstone population is 2,582. Based on the FBI data, an officer per 1,000, you take that 3.9, multiply by our population, you come up with 10 officers. Currently, we're at 9, and that includes the chief. Now, these models are not including the chief when you get to these numbers, because the chief doesn't really contribute to the call volume out on the road. You know, he's an administrator. He's got his duties in the office. So here's table 71 furnished by the FBI. I know it's kind of hard to see up on the screen, but I highlighted it in yellow. All the way down on the right bottom, you can see we're on average 3.9 officers per 1,000 residents in the Northeast. So officers per 1,000, they do have their advantages. The per capita method requires determining an optimum number of officers per person, then calculating the number of officers needed for the population of a jurisdiction. Has several advantages, including its methodological simplicity and ease of interpretation. Metrics population data such as census counts and estimates is publicly available and updated on a regular basis. This is the information you can get from the census, you can get it from the borough clerk's office. You can get all that information. It's easy, it's at your fingertips. It's simple to obtain. Communities can compare themselves to peer organizations using a per capita approach that adjusts for things like crime rates. So you can compare to other towns, but is Bedminster comparable to Peapack when it comes to crime and how we handle our policing and they handle theirs? The drawback to this approach is that it only considers the number of police officers required per population, not how the officer spends his time. All right. We take into account everything that the officer does. If there's a storm comes through town, the officer is putting into the CAD system, tree down, flooding, flood waters. This is stuff that may not be coming into 911 or if residents aren't calling in. This is stuff that officers are coming across. They're generating a file. It's not residents coming up to the officer and saying, "Hey, this is flooded. There's a tree down." This is what the officer is doing. They're being productive. They're making these files, and they're keeping track of everything that they do during the shift. All right, agencies using the per capita method may risk biased determination of other policing needs. This is due to a number of factors to begin with. There's no widely agreed standard for the optimal staffing rate. Rather, the police rate varies greatly based on the size of the town, the location, the organization, the agency, and the type of agency. So what may be good for us and may work for us may not work for another town. Other disadvantages, the intensity of workload by jurisdiction is not taken into consideration in per capita ratio. Like I said, it's not taking into consideration what the officer is doing on a daily basis. Between communities of similar population sizes, crime levels and types can vary dramatically. Look at us in Far Hills. Kind of similar population-wise, maybe, off by maybe 1,000. But, we're certainly different. We're certainly busier. Our crime trends are a lot higher.
We have better police officers than they do too.
The per capita technique ignores differences in enforcement style, service delivery, and criminal response. Again, how are the police officers spending their time? What are they doing? Staffing demands are not represented in per capita ratios because of differences in how agencies choose to patrol their jurisdictions. Again, we're a very community-oriented police department. A lot of the issues that we have in the town are community-oriented. All right, they're quality of life issues. Your barking dogs, somebody running their lawnmower, before hours, landscapers, before hours. It's stuff like that we're dealing with. There's no recommended officer numbers per thousand either. Making comparisons with other communities is also pointless. Officers per thousand ratio are widely used to compare departments. However, they are little value because they do not reveal how officers are deployed. Again, you see a pattern. A statistical ratio of officers per thousand was routinely gathered and published by federal agencies as well as organizations interested in performance monitoring, such as ICMA, into the 1950s. The Center for Public Safety Management does not recommend or consider this a valid standard for measuring staffing for any demographic. However, if you look at the FBI model, the per capita ratio, 3.9 officers on average, it works for us. It shows that there should be 10 officers. But there are disadvantages to doing that. Finally, least frequently, staffing decisions are based on real workload. Again, this is endorsed by the ICMA. They issue what's called a white paper, which is based on actual levels of demand for police service and matches that demand with the supply of police resources and is strongly endorsed by the ICMA. As a result, the department has a complete assessment of workload based on both calls for service and other long-term operational commitments, but nonetheless offers the most accurate and reliable predicator of police staffing levels. All right, so that's your workload model, which we're going to be getting into. All right. So calls for service and workload. What is calls for service? Calls for service are figures that represent the incidents that have been reported. These are the calls that are coming in to the police department, to our 911 center, county communications. These are the residents that are coming to headquarters, flagging the officers up down on the street, reporting incidents. The workload is the time measurement that records the amount of time it takes police officers to respond to a call for service from start to finish. So an officer responds to a first aid call. They're on scene from start to finish, motor vehicle crashes, domestics, whatever. You have to account for all that time that the officer is tackling. All right, the amount of time required to execute proactive police actions, directed patrols, community policing, targeted traffic enforcement, all that is examined in the workload model. And like I said, simple doesn't mean it's ideal. All right, all because you can get the information from the clerk's office, the census, or whatever, doesn't mean that it's a good model to use because it's simple. Using ratio to staff police is right up there with defunding the police in terms of foolish ideas, according to John Eck, professor of criminal justice, University of Cincinnati. All right, well, we must ask ourselves, what will it take for us in this community to achieve our public safety goals? For example, we used to do the bicycle rodeo with Summer Rec. Okay, we would attend community events. We have just started getting back into doing that, but we want to get back into doing more and having more officers. Rather than just having one officer at a community event, I want to have 2 or 3 officers. All right. We just recently had an officer, Tamburello, certified as a child safety seat technician. So we're going to start offering that to the town, to residents who want to have their child seats, checked out. So these are some of the programs that the chief and I want to put back out to the community, and we want to have staff who will be able to do that. All right, the workload model, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the ICP, they put forward a formula that you can follow, that I followed, that will give us an idea on how many officers the police department should have based on that formula. So in 2023, we determined what the number of the complaints are, which was 13,430. Those are all the incidents that were reported, generated within the police department last year. So you just multiply the total complaints and incidents by 0.75, which is 45 minutes, which is because of start to finish. That's on average. That's what the IACP comes up on an average for a call. You multiply that by 3 for preventative patrols, meals, reports, training, supervision, and you come up with a number of 30,217.5. You divide the product by the number of hours to staff 1 patrol unit per year, which is 4,380, and you come up with 6.90, which represents the number of 1 officer patrol elements to handle 13,430 incidents. So what do we do with that? So out of the 4,380 hours required to staff 1 patrol element, a patrol officer is not available for 1,654.08 hours, or is available for 2725.92 hours. To determine how many officers are needed to staff 1 patrol element, you take the number of hours available per year, you divide it by the number of hours that the officer is available, results in a product of 1.61. Meaning that 1.61 patrol officers are required for each of the 6.90 patrol elements necessary to police Peapack and Gladstone. And this does not include the chief. And you get 11 patrol officers. In 2022, same thing. Run the numbers. I'm not going to explain every single one. It's basically the same as what I just explained for 2023. 2,586 incidents reported or generated by the police department. Do the math. All the way at the bottom, 11.2 patrol officers. So you're looking at a ratio-based model that shows 10 officers. You're looking at a workload-based model that shows 11 officers. So you're between that 10 and 11 officers. This does not include the chief, because the chief is very rarely out there stopping cars, doing radar posts, doing the crosswalk posts. Okay. So after all said and done, now we got to look into how often the officer is actually available, which is the minimum viable police department size, issued by the local unit line and reorganization and consolidation commission. So what does it mean to be self-sufficient? All right, self-sufficient is one that does not rely on assistance from resources external to the municipality. We maintain 24/7 coverage by ourselves on our own, 2 full-time sworn law enforcement officers available for response and backup.
So what you're referring to is if you're doing that accident stop and a call comes in, the external help is Bar Hills or Bedminster coming in.
Correct.
Mutual aid.
Correct. And that's where I was going with that. So just recently, we had an officer tied up in headquarters. He had an arrest.
I want to see if you know the material well enough to take your script.
I know this very well, so at least I think I do. We had an officer tied up with an arrest the other day, and a resident calls in a noise complaint. County Communications, our dispatcher said, the officer is tied up with a primary incident. We'll get to you when we can. She called back twice demanding that an officer respond. Demanding, that an officer respond. Well, we do the best we can. I have had incidents where we're tied up in headquarters with a drunk driver, and we have a squad call on the other side of town. Well, a Peapack Gladstone officer is not responding to that first aid call. We're calling Chester, Mendham, Forest Hills, or Bevington, depending on where it is in town. It's happened. It's happened. I stopped a car full of juveniles, stolen vehicle, had a gun. I'm working by myself. I called in the entire department. So you pay that overtime.
You got me.
So we have to account for 12-hour shifts, figuring in vacation, sick leave, personal time, Kelly time training, and other time off. And I did the averages of all that time, and that's where we start putting into what the shift relief factor is. The shift relief factor is the number of actual staff required to fill a single patrol position 365 days a year. This accounts for regular days off, leave, training, etc. This can vary by agency depending on collective bargaining agreements, training levels, and other factors impacting actual time on the street. Now, you're probably familiar with New Jersey went to police licensing. There's a lot more training that we have to do, and we're required to do. And it's going to take up the officer's time. A lot of it's online. Some of it we actually have to go to the police academy to do in-service training. But our Attorney General's office determined that police in New Jersey need to be licensed, and they put all these training requirements on us. I'm glad the chief's dealing with that. So Peapack Gladstone's number, shift relief factor is 2.6, based on available for work time of 1,654 hours per officer per year. To virtually ensure that 2 patrol officers per shift, or 4 per day, 10.4 officers are needed. We have 8, which includes me. And as you're aware, I do go out on the road, I do patrol, you do see me out there, I do the crosswalk in the morning, but I do have responsibilities in the office. Scheduling, training, making sure the daily operations are moving smoothly as the chief wants. So this kind of explains the shift relief factor. Like I said, our number is 2.6. That number is arrived by taking the average regular scheduled days off. So each officer has 182.5 days off a year because we work the Pittman schedule, which is 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 off. Okay. So leave days, approximately 31.9, non-patrol days including training, admin, military. We do have the 1 officer in the military. That's 12.76 hours or days, and deducting that number from 2725 from the total hours in a year that constitute a shift. So you take 365 days a year times 12-hour shift is that 4380. You subtract the 2592 for a total available time per officer of 1654.08. So the number of hours needed to be covered for a slot, 4,380. That's a year. Divided by 1654, the number of hours an employee is available to work those hours, because you have to subtract all their time off. And what I did was I went through all the pay sheets and calculated the average of all the time that all the officers took off. And that comes out to 2.6. The number of physical employees needed to staff 1 patrol slot 365 days a year. This is just a bigger chart, if you can see it, which breaks down vacation time, sick time, comp time, Kelly time. Now, Kelly time is time that the officer gets because we work more than 2,080 hours. We work 2184, so that time comes back to us as Kelly time. It's almost like a comp time for those that aren't aware.
For everybody who's not, the 2080 is essentially the annual equivalent of the 40-hour work week for everybody else.
And we work more than that, and we get that time back, which is called Kelly time. Training military, so you take the duty cycle, which is 365 times 7 divided by 14. That's where you get your 182.5 days off. All right, total days off times 12 hours, total hours in a year minus the hours off, total hours in a year divided by hours available, 2.65. So that's where you come up with the shift relief factor of 2.6. I know it's a lot. So Peapack Gladstone wants to staff one 12-hour shift per day, every day. 2.6 officers are needed to do it. Any deficit is made up by paying overtime. Peapack Gladstone has 2 officers per shift or 4 per day to run such a department. 5.2 officers are required to do that. We currently on a full shift run 2 per shift or 4 per day. To maintain the staffing level requires 10.4. We have 8, which includes me. Now I put in there day shift. I have myself down there and a patrol officer, and night shift, which is a corporal who works 2 to 2, and then we have a night shift officer 6P to 6A. But I work Monday through Friday. If I take off, then there's only 1 officer working during the day. I just came back from vacation, so there's a week that happened. So what are we going to do with all this? So I provided all the numbers, all the formulas, all the data, which shows that the police department should be between 10 and 11 officers. All right? So now I throw it back to the mayor and the council. You're going to have to make a decision on what you want to do. But there's more. So you got to figure into, in this day and age, attracting and retaining municipal employees. So in November of last year, I attended the League of Municipalities conference, and I attended a seminar on recruiting and retaining municipal employees. It was comprised of a panel of administrators, a mayor had joined the Rutgers Center for Government Services, discussion on attracting and retaining employees. So when the chief came to me and said, hey, you're going to have to do another presentation, I was like, oh, here we go again. So I reached out to my instructor from Rutgers, where I did my master's degree, Angie McGuire, Dr. Angie McGuire, who's the Associate Director of Rutgers Center for Executive Leadership. And she says, funny you should ask, because her and Teresa Casagrande, the administrator in the borough of Fairhaven, put together a article for the League of Municipalities on this very topic. She entrusted me with it. She didn't want me to put it out there to the public until she could publish it, but she said I could use it as long as I provide credit where credit is due, and that's why I have that slide up there. So implications for municipal government: experienced municipal employees are retiring at an increased rate. Younger workers are not pursuing jobs in public service. Public service jobs lack the stature they once held in the community. The compensation and benefits offered in the public sector are no longer competitive with the private sector, and municipal employees can no longer be motivated to accept a lower salary in exchange for excellent benefits such as non-contributory health benefits and a great pension. That's what Dr. Angie McGuire and the administrator at Fairhaven came up with in their article. We have been doing interviews for new officers over the course of the last couple of years, and a couple things keep popping up. All right. One, why did you enter public service? You know, was it a civics class, family member, volunteer event, community engagement, your hometown, professor encouraging you to act on your passion? What was it? But today's young workers don't always have this. They learn about government generally through combative media and social media platforms. You know, they don't want to do the job anymore. They don't want to be in public service. For Peapack Gladstone, these are some of the things that we hear when we interview people. Why don't you want to work for Peapack Gladstone? Or why did you want to take the job with Peapack Gladstone? Salary, post-retirement benefits, which that's contractual, I understand that. Opportunities for advancement is rarely available for us. There's no opportunity to specialize. We do send officers to the county prosecutor's office, you know, narcotics task force, but I think they're slowly getting rid of that and it's now become the burglary task force, I believe. And officers working alone, which is a big one. Officers don't want to work alone. We tell them when we interview them, hey, you're going to work alone, are you okay with that? Oh, absolutely, I'm fine with that. And then 6 months down the line, they leave because they don't want to work alone. So what are some potential strategies to attract and retain municipal employees? This came up in the article authored by the 2 individuals that that were referenced. Salary increases, offer incentives. I know municipal employees get EMT and firefighter stipends, police department does not. College, we do get college reimbursement. Maybe it could be better. Career investment and advancement doesn't necessarily have to impact the budget immediately, but a simple change in job title can improve an employee's resume and offer them advancement in their government career. The chief has often stated, we have a chief, a sergeant, and 2 corporals. In a bigger town, we would be a chief, a lieutenant, and 2 sergeants. By making a title change, that can increase motivation. And this isn't mine, this is coming from the individual I read. Professional and career development opportunities, education programs, and earning various certifications can motivate new and existing employees. And we do a good job with that. I send these guys to a lot of classes, they get a lot of certifications, you know, that we're bringing back to the borough and then we're putting back out to the community. So that's the end of my presentation. I don't have a picture.
Well done.
Question.
Yeah.
Are the academies at half student bodies now, or are they undersubscribed?
The recruits at the academy right now, when you start looking into their backgrounds, how did you get in the academy? You know, it's not what it used to be.
When we went through the academy, if I had a parking ticket, I would have job with the town because I had a parking ticket. There are people with arrests, DWIs, suspended driver's licenses, warrants, and this is the cream of the crop.
And they take them with active warrants?
I was in the academy with a guy who was arrested while he was in the driving course because they ran his driver's license back with an active warrant for parking ticket.
The New Jersey State Police, if you had a DWI, you were out. Now you're allowed one.
Times have changed, and we were having a very tough time. I go to chiefs meetings, and every chief in that room is struggling to hire. And the ones that are hiring, and they're getting really good candidates, patrol's topping out at 160, 165. It's how we have to do business.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking to turn it into a contractual issue. We need manpower. And again, I want our people to go home safe. You know, we aren't going to be around, three of us, forever. We need people to come in behind us to step up and fill these roles. And we're now, as Sergeant Scout said, we're at a point now where we're trying to get people to that level where when we leave, it's got to be seamless. And I know that's what you want too. You don't want somebody in here trying to figure it out while you're here. You want someone that's going to come in, take charge, and know what's going on and how to handle everything, which is what I want. I want to leave that behind, and so sergeants can. So I know it's a lot. I know what Tom gave you is a lot of information. Obviously, take it home, pour through it. It's all the numbers that we pull from our own dispatch and we pull from our own CAD system. We're not making anything up or anything.
I'll be candid with you. I wouldn't have asked you to be here if I didn't think you had merit to this. So I do want to move forward, but I want everyone here to understand why we're talking about this.
Absolutely. No, we appreciate the time, and I know it's a little lengthy, and for everybody who was here to hear this, we apologize, but
I talked too fast. I know.
We just literally we want to give a better and the best that we can give to the community, and by having an extra officer, eventually when we're going to come back before you in a couple of years when we have more people in town, we're going to ask again. We need this to keep our heads above water and to continue to give the best service we can to not only the town, but absolutely to our residents, but to do right by the people that are driving around those patrol cars at 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what we want to provide. So, we appreciate your time.
Great presentation, by the way, thank you. So a couple years ago, we had a presentation, and John, were we at 8 asking for 9 or 9 asking for 10? Because I thought it was 8 asking for 9, okay,
so we were so it's confusing.
We went to 9 at the last one.
Correct.
Right. And really what this is about going to 10.
This is about going to 10.
The data from the last time did show 10 to 11 officers, but that was including the chief. All right. This is not including the chief. Actually, I'm sorry. It showed 9 to 10 officers.
We were right on the cusp.
Right. Yeah. Correct.
Last time.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to remember if it was 8 to 9 or 9 to 10.
We rounded down. We didn't want to get.
We're looking to round up, so we're looking.
So is it 1 hire or 2?
We'd be looking to hire 1 officer. Right.
I have a question. If we hire another officer, can the officers always be 2 at a time patrolling? But do we have the stats on that?
So what we did was it would be the difficult part about putting 2 people on at the same time. And Sergeant Scanlon pointed out there was one slide where we talked about the hard. It was the hard versus the soft scheduling, where hard schedule is 2 people. Period. So if we're working together, and I'm sick, well then we bring another person on overtime to work with Sergeant Scanlon. What that's going to bring your overtime up, because what happens with the numbers that and you look through the state, the numbers that each officer has, they vary a little bit because of service time, but like your leave time, that leave time, we have to account for that every year, and that's literally accounted for each officer taking every hour that they can.
With 10 officers, it's going to reduce the number of hours that any officer is working by themselves. They won't eliminate
yes.
because of the time.
So Corporal Duff did we can actually send it out to you. Corporal Duff did ran the numbers, and what he did was he came up with a schedule that basically for lack of a better detailed explanation, it puts an officer on every 4 hours. So it's just like a shift in the clock. So we have more people working together. So the length of time that you may work alone, 4 hours, and you have us here as well. Like we can come out and back people up and do those types of things. So that's, again, I don't want to throw a lot of detail out without you actually looking at it to see what we need. But there is a way to schedule it where it's going to maximize the number of officers we have per day, which is really a compass. But just to put two together on a shift, like 2 around the clock, which I understand, that's a great idea.
But it gets us improved supervision for the younger.
And that's the other thing, is the supervision aspect. So right now, we only have, take myself out of it and take Sergeant Scanlon out of it, we only have 2 frontline supervision supervisors, Corporal Left and Corporal Morris. They supervise 2 people. So if we were to get to 10 or 11 officers, like patrol officers, then we would have to work something out schedule-wise. But right now, what Corporal Left put together, which I'd be happy to send you, really kind of maximizes what we can do. And if someone calls out or they take off, there's ways that we can move people around a little bit to help that, which is really beneficial to us. So being such a small PD. So there's options there.
I had a question as well. Thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting. To me, I thought that the number on page 5, 61.91% of the time they're working by themselves. So do you have an estimate on what would happen to that number if we were to hire 1 more officer? How much would it go down, or do you not have that?
That was an analysis based on our schedule from 2023.
Okay.
That's what Officer Tamburello did.
Right.
Where he broke down every day and found when there was a gap, when someone was, alone.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I could guess it would go down, but I can't give you an answer.
But if it ran out the way we like to try to do it, if we move forward with this, I think without question, barring some sort of issue that comes up, an injury, something along those lines, that would go down. It's just how much, it's tough to say, just based upon the lead time people have, the training, et cetera, et cetera. So, and again,
was that number only for officers on patrol? Did that number factor in either you, the chief, or both being on site?
That was everybody. That doesn't include the chief. I'm in there because I work 5 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Right.
I've been up since 4 o'clock. When an officer goes to class, or if an officer takes off day shift, I'm covering the road from 5 to 1 when Detective Caruso comes in at 1, or if he's off, when one of the corporals comes in at 2. So I'm in there somewhere, whether it be me covering from 1 to 2, from 5 to 1 by myself, or, from 5 to 6, we would have 2 officers, and then if that day shift officer wanted to take off, I'm by myself.
And initially, the study was done, it was administrative staff, and we would just assign administrative staff. Because he does go out, he does do things on the road, he answers calls, et cetera, and he does cover when the day shift is off, we included him in that number. We didn't want to pull him back.
That one number, to raise the flag with me, I would have minded seeing your work papers on that, just to see how you arrived at that. But you did a very good presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Rutgers.
What was that?
Thank Rutgers. That's
I
all.
need to ask a favor. JD's not here tonight.
Yeah.
She's out she's away for 10 days or so. Would you mind reaching out to her and see if she gets a copy and
sure.
Explain it to her if you want?
Sure. Nancy, I'll email you the copy if you need it for
Yes.
website.
Yeah, just email me the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
Owen, Nick, Adam, and Luke. The fact that you're here for this means a lot to us. Thank you for taking the interest in your it's like a lot.
Thank you for taking into consideration. Mayor.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. Any other new business, council members, that you might have not on the agenda?
Oh, yeah. I could do that in the police report.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
I might have something just quick, new business, in terms of maybe proposing something for the future of recognizing maybe local high school students or athletes that are recognized at high levels, graduating, whether it's to a high honor or whatever, and acknowledge them here at the council meetings, potentially moving forward. I create a plan. So.
I'd be a little cautious. We've honored like Gil, with their championship teams. They do like the honor roll. My fear would be, we leave somebody out and it's going to come back.
Right, and honor roll is just one thing that came up. Just even local crossing, for example, I know there's a few Peapack and Gladstone residents that were part of that state sectional team. That's concrete information that we can call down. And again, we might come across some errors, but obviously we would do our due diligence to make sure that we're accurate in the reports, because I do know there's a lot of great things happening, and not just on the high school young athletes or young students, but also potentially within accolades within town, adults, or some high honors that should be acknowledged, and whether it's within the fire department or even police department. But I would spearhead that, look into it, and then potentially.
The direction I would take with that is we could do spotlights in the newsletter on those simple things. I think that would be a good vehicle.
Okay, and I'll talk to other surrounding towns, see what they do as well.
Look into it.
Yeah, I'll look into it. I just wanted to kind of throw it out there.
Brian Bradshaw, who's superintendent of schools.
Of course.
And Dr. Bradshaw also, he has a tendency for every Board of Ed, I listen to all the Board of Ed meetings, and for the first 45 minutes of every meeting, he acknowledges student achievements.
Yes.
Making the meeting go well into 3 hours.
Yeah,
so, you know,
no, we will not be doing
that.
I do know
the audience down.
Yeah.
And I speak on, also Burnsville does it, and does it with a lot of their students. And I've heard some rumbles that, why don't we do it? Why don't we recognize our residents? And I think it's a valid point to make, that our kids, and sometimes we're not as acknowledged as much as we should, because we're almost like 15 minutes away. But I think we should acknowledge our students or youth, whether it's maybe something, service learning project, whether it's an Eagle Scout, whatever it might be. I just think it's something to look into to further reinforce great community outreach and acknowledge our very own. So again, I'll look into it.
And think about utilizing the webpage to encourage people to make submissions.
Sure,
so
sure.
Everything, so
random acts of kindness or something along those lines.
So it's not a research project, where you just kind of like checking the newspaper to see if there's anything that applies.
And we won't catch everything. I do agree with you. And we'll get criticized for it, but that's okay.
If we handle a lot of it with the newsletter, we can. If we miss somebody, we can always correct it.
I certainly wouldn't mind seeing more of that type of engagement.
I'll look into it and I'll report back. Great, thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to miscellaneous. Eric Kayla.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do tonight is just kind of get a consensus from the council, whether you're for it or not. I had mentioned earlier in the year about the Sarah K lot. It's a lot there on Willow Ave. And essentially what we're trying to do is a subdivision of the lot and taking the one corner that follows School Street and Willow and creating a pocket park and putting that part of our ROTC, and then taking the other portion of it and having that actually sold as for a single family use residence. I've had Bill Ryden draw up and spoke with Sarah Jane about what potentially this could look like, dimensions, etc. There'd be a couple of variances that would be required to make it proper in the setting of where it is. I've spoken with the residents, a couple here tonight, Rick and Donna Burton, thank you for coming. But I've spoken with all the residents on Will that are most impacted right there. Again, the thought really is to, one, prevent future low-income housing potential development there. And two, also, that Sarah K property was purchased to create the library, which didn't happen. That was used as taxpayer dollars. We would like to see those taxpayer dollars come back in for a benefit to the borough and to the residents. If you guys are within a consensus to do so, Steve has already sort of prepped, in order to bring this to land use board to actually have it subdivided, and from a subdivision from there, we could then have a resolution to, to go forward with an auction process. I've already got the proposal from the auction company, the same company we used in the prior, and Mark, correct me, what was the address, on Half Moon?
The Conline property.
The Conline property, so it'd be the same auctioneer that we would use for that, but again,
Conline House.
I want to just get your thoughts or feedback if you're,
Well,
have consensus.
do we have an idea of what we would set as a minimum bid?
So I think from talking to a couple of realtors in town, that the number has come back around 300,000. I would probably start a little bit lower than that, to be honest, but that's, I'd like to get, Kerwin also do an assessment of what we think, the property could be valued at, but that's been a number that I've been told from a couple of.
To me, the important thing is it's the minimum number, because, because if it's, let's say 150, we're not, and that's above the minimum, and we have to accept it, even though, to me, it wouldn't be worth it for 150.
No,
for 300, it's a different ballgame. So,
agreed.
So setting the minimum is important. And what if we don't hit the minimum, we can always revisit it, and maybe it just wasn't meant to happen.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. It needs to make sense.
Agreed.
I agree with the minimum. I did want to know if we're open to the possibility of, unfortunately, potentially becoming affordable housing, which we wouldn't want. Is there a way to protect us from that by say, okay, this is a designated park, we're calling it, we're naming it, this is this, does that insulate us at all?
The remaining property would not be illegal.
Right, I knew that from the size, but if it was left as is and it was designated as some particular park or an open space, what does that do?
Well, if we put it in the Rossi, then it's not available for affordable housing.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't put any money in the bank.
Right.
Which this does.
Right. I'm just curious.
And it wouldn't, if I may, it wouldn't necessarily change our fair share obligation either.
Correct.
It would just potentially remove a potential site to the extent it would not be vacant, available, developable any longer.
Okay.
If it were on the Ross.
The remaining property would be enough to put affordable on. We would want to put it in the Ross and make it a lot better.
Okay. But your question is, could we do that? Could we put the entire Sarah K lot today in Rocky? Which, yes, the answer is we could do that. This is a compromise to accomplish two objectives.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Jill or Sergio?
What is a pocket park? It's just a plain,
It's a little bitty park.
A little park? Okay, it doesn't have any.
We're gonna put a bench in there. And,
okay, I don't want to assume, that's what I'm asking.
Sure.
Extra place for the geese to feed. Sorry, I had to say it.
And actually, if they build on it, there's one less place to feed.
One less place.
I know. They already feed there actually right now.
Sir, do you have any thoughts or comments?
No, just the design, obviously, the process, I know you initiated already.
So Bill Ryden has done a schematic design plan, which Steve has seen. Upon a consensus, if you guys can, have a consensus tonight, the C will then take it going to the board, go forward with the subdivision of that. Once we have the subdivision approved, then bring it back to council for a vote.
I have another question. Once we make it a subdivision, and then the property value is not enough to sell, like it doesn't make sense, does that put us in jeopardy of then making that more appealing for affordable housing?
No, and the way that it's been valued is as a subdivision.
Okay.
But before we do a subdivision application, though, I think I would like to lock in, where we would set that minimum bid.
Yeah.
Because we're investing money in the property. If we think we're not going to get 250,000 or 300, then it's, then maybe we are better off going with the Rossi.
I'm not opposed to that.
So, I'm in favor of it contingent upon, what number we can reasonably set as a minimum.
Eric, I would do it in this way. I would consult with Steve. I would get a resolution on to explore the sale of the property, okay, and to pursue the sale of the property. Once the council votes on that, you have the ability to move forward, working with Nancy and Steve to get the property on the auction list. At that point, you would go to the land use board and get the feasible subdivision done. It's an easy process. It's always a rubber stamp, because the property would
Because we're the
qualify.
applicant.
Yeah, well, no, yes, no, it's in the DM zone, so it's the property will qualify. Okay, the property goes to auction. At that point, when the property council knows it's gonna sell for the minimum price that we decide, then we would look to modify the loss and get the corner lot on the loss.
Okay.
Now, that gets us well in advance, and also, side benefit, puts $250,000 or $300,000 into our retained earnings, which would be used for future fire insurance.
You said that there'd be some variances required. I mean, they're not use variances, but would there be bulk variances required?
I'd have to go back to.
Even we wouldn't be, we're not creating a conforming lot?
I think what Sarah Jane's referencing is the fact that when someone developed it with a single-family dwelling, presumably they would need some bulk variances
They
at
might
that
need a
time.
variance, but it's a conforming lot, though.
It is a conforming lot.
It would be a conforming lot for subdivision purposes, yes.
But you see variances if they wanted a different setback or something like that.
I'm sorry,
If they chose to have a different setback or some other factor, that makes it non-conforming.
The site plan.
It wouldn't be a site plan for residential. It would simply be bulk variances for developing a single family on a residential lot. Site plans only come into play for more than two family, either multifamily or commercial. So, but yes, they would need, she's certain that they would ultimately need some bulk variance relief because of the way because of the way the lot is shaped. Trapezoidal, I guess is the trapezoid.
So you're talking about a side yard setback?
Yeah, bulk variance, nothing.
But that's something, that wouldn't be part of the subdivision.
That would be part of the subdivision application by the borough. That would be part of a subsequent application for development by the single-family homeowner, based on the configuration of their structure.
Okay, consent from council. Yes?
Consenting to what exactly?
To allow her to proceed and get a resolution on it for this.
The resolution, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And council will have to come up with a minimum number after that.
Okay.
Good. So let's move on. Let's move to the special use permit application from the Group Music in Somerset Hills. They're looking to have another Gilded Age event at Blairsden in October. And everyone has the application. Any comments on that? I do have one comment on it. I have no problem approving this, but based on the application, I noticed that it looks like the traffic is coming in from Blair Drive. It was not said.
No.
One second, please.
Oh, okay, sorry.
From the drawing, it shows that the traffic looks like it's coming off of Blair Drive, although it's not clear. Okay, so as a condition of approval, I would just want to see the guests coming in the easement, like they had last time. Now, who's here?
Thanks. I'm Pam Nardone and Chair of Events for Music in the Somerset Hills and a Gladstone resident. Almost lifelong, by the way. This was my cafeteria growing up. And this is Kathy Payne. We're co-chairs of the event. So I'm sorry if the map was misleading. We definitely are not going up Blair Drive.
And we did not last year.
No, we didn't last year.
I know you didn't last year.
Yeah.
But if you look where the arrow starts, the traffic, it starts on Blair Drive. It does not start at the intersection of the Phoenix driveway and Highland Avenue.
Sorry.
That's what I saw when I read it. Look, you don't have to find it. You just make a representation.
You made a representation on the record.
Yeah, just make a representation.
No, it does show it here as Highland Avenue.
Sorry. Can I come up?
Yeah. Let me call it my copy. My copy is different.
So here's Highland Avenue. There's the little cut through to Blair Drive. So we're going all the way up and through Matheny.
Okay, so look at my map. Does it not say guest enter on Blair Drive right there?
Oh, well, what's that?
That's part of your application.
That's what I have as well, yes.
That's part of your application.
Oh. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Mayor Mark. So, yeah, no,
Okay,
oh, no. Okay, no. You know what this is? This is the mansion.
Yep.
This is the big reflecting
Yeah.
pond. This is the entrance, is Blair Drive.
Yeah.
That's this right here. But as they come around here, that's this, and then we make the sharp left up to Matheny. So this is just the big stone wall to come into the mansion. That's all that is.
But it is, the way I read it, okay, and it sounds like Sergio read it the same way, is the guest entrance is Blair Drive. That's not the case.
Well, no, it is from Matheny. When you didn't come last year, did you?
I was away.
Well, you better come this year.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be on Blair Drive, just from the private, where his gate is, to get into the mansion.
But you're not coming in from Main Street.
Right, but they're coming, right.
Believe me, if I work this too much, Joan Siegel will shoot me. So,
Yes.
I get it.
It's all good. And
So
we are.
the point is, you're directing the traffic of the visitors up Highland through Matheny to Blair Drive,
Yes.
right on Blair Drive.
Yes.
Like you did last year.
Exactly.
Just wanted to.
Nothing is changing.
Not questioning it, just confirming.
Yes, absolutely. And they're being so incredibly nice to Matheny to work with us. They are.
They are great. Nancy, you don't need a modification, do you, to document that, or is it on the record? Okay, fine.
It'll be in the minutes that it was.
Questions from council other than? Okay, consent of council.
Consent.
And there is a resolution, there is a resolution, with a resolution approving it, so.
Yeah, approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
We're
welcome.
so appreciative.
Unfortunately, I was invited, I could not make it last year, I heard it was a stellar.
Well, I hope that you all consider coming, because it really is, and it's just such a beautiful setting. Last year was Gatsby, this year's Gilded Age. Music, dancing, so fun, and just to open the mansion up for, for a nonprofit like, what we're involved in, to make a little money, to do what we do for the community, is we're really, really appreciative.
Very
And
nice
especially to
of you.
Anthony.
And very nice of you, and very nice of them, the little ones to allow.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, next we have an application for use of the park from the American Traveling Morris Dancers. They are not here tonight, I'm advised. Okay, has everyone looked at this, or do they need a brief on it? Because Nancy's prepared to brief.
I want to clarify, they want this for 20 to 30 minutes?
Correct.
So,
They are they're basically like a traveling dance. They do it for a week out of the summer, and they go to different areas where they spend like a half an hour in each area doing their dance. They bring their own guitar players, there's like banjo or fiddlers or whatever. They come in, they dance, and then they leave.
they put down a hat?
I don't think so, because they did not
So
say
they're not-
that.
So they don't need a peddler's license?
Right, correct.
I don't even, for 20 to 30 minutes?
Do they have a following?
I mean, unless they're
They
doing
do have a
fireworks.
following, and they will advertise in this area that they are going to be here for this day and around what time it is.
If nothing, I'm more curious to see it than
Right.
anything.
I looked it up, and it looks like a group of people who are looking to maintain an old
Right, tradition.
That's what it is, and they actually spend their own money to travel all over the place, giving these half an hour dances. And then they leave here, and then, right, Nancy, they go to another town the same night.
They'll
Where
leave
are they
here,
based out of?
More
well,
so.
the person who's in
They're
charge,
from all over.
the dude, they call it the dude in charge.
I was just reading that, the dude in charge.
The dude in charge is from Glen Gardner, in this area
The Big
here.
Lebowski?
What?
The Big Lebowski.
Yeah. So he is the
so he's from Glen Gardner, so he's in this area, and that's why they're trying to do it in this area.
I had no problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it either, I think it's great.
We did not do, because it came in very late, we did not do a resolution for this. We will have a resolution. I will tell them that they can advertise in there.
And we'll have the
They can
resolution
do it.
will be before that.
It will be before that. It will be on the July 16th meeting.
Okay, you wanna do it that way? Okay.
Or, yeah, yes.
Actually,
Which is
I
fine.
would just be returning by then.
Okay.
I think it's lovely. More culture for our community. I think it's great, and it's something different that you wouldn't really even think about necessarily being exposed to, but it's an opportunity.
I think it's great, it's free.
There you go.
Free entertainment.
There you go.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Reading and approval of minutes, we have 2 sets of minutes with 1 vote for both. We have the regular meeting of May 14th, and we have the regular meeting of June 6th, which is not on your, oh, yes, it is on
It is on the agenda.
on the agenda.
I'll move that, both of these.
Okay, we gotta move on to
Second.
second by Eric. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, Nancy.
Councilman Cortello.
Aye.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sueda.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Wyble.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to resolutions. Now, I'd like everybody to take a moment and look through resolutions 119 through 130. Yes, 24. Now, we have
Minus 127 and 126.
Can we include 131 and 130?
I'll get to that. Wait, the minus which one?
126 and 127.
Oh, yeah, excluding 126 and 126. We're gonna hold off on 131 and 132 because we have to read them by name. We have to read
Even
them.
by title.
So we're gonna do it separately, okay? So would everyone just take a minute and look through the ones I just outlined and see if you'd like to pull any one for individual vote or discussion?
I'd like you to pull 128.
Okay. Got it. Just give me a, okay, when you're ready.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so this is I'm gonna look for a motion and a second for a consent vote on resolutions 119 through 125, and then 129 through 130.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. When you're ready, Nancy.
Silence your phone.
I didn't even know it was on. It's never on.
Too many baby boomers here.
I'm sure mine ran. Oh, it didn't.
It's my mother.
Do you need those, ordinance numbers for the rental?
No, I have that.
You have it?
Okay, yeah. Councilman Cortello.
Aye.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sueda.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Wyble.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Now we're gonna move on to 128-24. I'll read it. A resolution to congratulate the PD graduates and making them honorary citizens of Peapack And Gladstone for life. A motion and a second.
I'm gonna move that.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I did, yeah, yesterday, I attended Matheny's high school graduation, and it was one of the most profound experiences that I've had. It was emotional, it was uplifting. You learned so much about, there were 10 graduates this year, which is the most that they've ever had. And it was just a great day for them and their families. I was thrilled to be a part of it, and I promised that I was going to make this resolution. So if you need to pass it, don't make me a liar.
Okay. Just a question, John. Does this retroactive for all prior? Is it?
No, it's just this class right now.
Okay.
I thought maybe maybe do it as a tradition every year.
Okay.
When you say graduate, what does that mean? Is it they reach a certain age where they go to a transitional program? How does that work?
It's 21 because as you probably know, that's when the high school age.
Yeah, and they had that COVID year as well, which they could be 22 now. the state granted them a
I
COVID year.
understand, they were all,
Yes,
they were all 20.
but they stay in the same location, or they move on to?
Some of them, about 6 of them, I think, had been there since kindergarten.
Wow.
A couple came in a little bit later, and one maybe came in
That's
high
amazing.
school. They had a salutatorian and a valedictorian, and they, iPad, not too different than what Mark has in front of them. My wife used the phrase, text to.
Yeah, text to speech.
Text to speech, where, I mean, they weren't that verbal, so they pushed the button, and their prepared comments were there. The keynote speaker was a graduate of Matheny, 71 years old, and he has been a crusader for the disabilities cause for years, and he actually is the director of 12 different, I don't want to call them group homes, independent living facilities, which was really kind of mind-blowing, because we're not talking about a group home where there's somebody there. This is people with disabilities transitioning into independent living. So you'd be looking at places that wounded warriors might prepare for a wounded soldier, where the apartment is accessible for them. Really an eye-opening experience.
Thank you.
I encourage everyone to make it up there for miles from Athene, part of our community.
Thank you for representing us.
Oh, I thank you.
I did it last year. It was an honor, especially to be here. And John was very kind of it. Took off the work when we did it. But it's a very rewarding experience.
Thank you.
John, what is the implication of honoring them by making them citizens for life? Or is there
the implication is that in the short talk that I gave, I indicated that Matheny, despite some of the differences that we've had over the years in town-gown relations, that they're an integral part of the fabric of this town. And I wanted to, and that's how I wanted to convey it to them, that they're always going to be considered themselves Peapack citizens.
Okay, and I didn't know, I think this is a great idea. I'm not trying to speak against it, I'm just trying to get the full picture, but I did want to know, there's no way, like, for some reason, like when Matheny leaves, if they're still living there, that could affect their aid in any way, or, you know.
That's where honorary comes in.
Okay, just making sure. Sounds great, thank you.
So just to reiterate something, Sergio and Julie, I speak to Bill often, every couple of months, not all that often, but often enough. And the offer still stands. If you would like a tour of Matheny, he would be happy to have you over there and give you a tour.
I would love to. That'd be great.
Maybe if you're interested also, get me dates and times, and I'll set it up for all.
Okay.
Do it as a group, actually.
I'll be
I've been in touch with them. I just haven't been able to. They're only available during certain hours. So, but it's a goal. It's unbelievable how many individuals are in need that go overlooked, or that don't have the support after they transition into adulthood. There really isn't a lot out there. It's unfortunate because they just have 21 by state statute, and what next? And it's not just for them, it's for their parents, their siblings, their caretakers. So I can't imagine how emotional it was, because I've never really had that. I'd love to attend it.
And actually, the keynote speaker probably, I had to leave afterwards, but Bill was very emphatic that all the parents there should talk to Norman, the speaker, because they're all looking at that issue.
Right.
Typically, when they turn 21 or thereabouts, they need that kind of assistance, they move to one of the Matheny's group homes, for which they currently have 6.
Which is not, 6 is not a lot. We're talking about the one on Main Street in Far Hills as well. I guess that accounts for that. Those are 2, right? And if you're graduating 10 a year, that quickly gets filled up, I'm sure. And there is a lot of state-run facilities, but they're the quality of care.
And there's varying degrees of disability up there.
Sure, of course.
I couldn't tell you from this particular group, but I'm sure a small percentage, independent living is viable.
They may not be with Matheny. It may go to Bethel Ridge, you know, so because you may know Bethel Ridge has a contract, an agreement with us to build a group home, 2 group homes on the Smith property. So they might end up there too. And Malillo has an agreement with us to build a group home. So there's options in town.
When you say group home for special needs.
I've been talking to the meetings for that.
So they won't just be honorary residents.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Right.
Might be honorary citizens and.
It's more than we have.
Of course. The special, when you say group home, special needs group home.
Yes.
Special assistance. Understand. Okay.
We did not take a vote.
We had a motion and a second with no vote.
Okay.
Thanks.
Councilman Cortella.
Aye.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sueda.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel.
Aye.
Dee is an integral part of our community, and it's certainly productive to talk about the Dee a little bit and understand what they do better. Okay, let's move on to 131-24. Nancy, would you read the title? That's what we do.
Resolution to appoint Bernard Grilletti as temporary subcode fire inspector. Our fire inspector resigned, and we needed to have a subcode until we hire somebody as our part-time subcode official fire inspector. Bernie said that he's more than willing to help out. He does work in Bedminster, and will come over here on the same day that he is in Bedminster.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Cortella.
Aye.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sueda.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel.
Aye.
I would. Let's move on to resolution 132-24, an add-on. Nancy, the title, please.
Resolution for renewal of plenary, retail, I can't pronounce that word.
Nobody even knows what the word means anymore.
Yeah, retail distribution liquor license for the period of July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025 for Gladstone Wine and Liquors.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cortella.
Aye.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sueda.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel.
Aye.
Okay, list. Does any council member have any item from the list that needs to be pulled for discussion?
No.
Seeing none, Nancy, will you read the total amount, please?
$705,947.67.
And may I have a motion second to approve the resolution for the payment?
So moved.
Second.
When you're ready.
Councilman Cortella.
Aye.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sueda.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Moving on to council reports, I won't read down the list. Does any chair have a report for this evening's meeting?
I have one thing on police, and that is the police have been offered the exercise visit from Pfizer. They like to put it on the second floor of this building. Bill Rodney filled out the old load bearing study. And he's comfortable that for the equipment, which weighs approximately 2,500 pounds, that it would be fine up there. So we just need consent to go forward with that.
Could this also be available to the residents? Liability.
No,
Yeah.
it's a liability.
We could certainly, the police have asked for it. The question is, I guess other employees maybe.
Other employees, yeah. Or the DPW would be.
Other employees, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with other employees, no outside.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's a
Sure.
shared police, including police, but that's it.
that's it.
Concur.
We're not going into the gym business.
No.
Concur, everyone? Yes.
Yes.
If it becomes an issue and the room is sloppy, we'll deal with it.
Just one quick question, the flooring, since you're putting those weights,
We
obviously,
talked-
I'm not sure what the flooring's up there, but some kind of rubber mat finish.
You know, the rubber matting, like a
Right.
jigsaw puzzle that we set up.
Sure.
We got to put that down.
All right, any other committee reports from the chairs?
If none of the mayor did have one brief one.
Going right to you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to advise everyone that last Wednesday, the borough and the county closed on the Smith farmland preservation sale of development rights to ensure that that will remain open space and not be developed. And as you may recall, the county bore 90% of the cost, and the borough only 10% approximately. But here in our borough, we will have that tract remain undeveloped in perpetuity. So that is effectuated, and the closing took place on Wednesday of last week.
Very good, thank you, sir.
But
And, kudos to the New Jersey Conservation Foundation too, because Beth Davison is back on the job, and she was pushing it through.
Beth is back.
Yes.
That
Well,
is tremendous.
Not 100% of the time, but she's back.
She's back part-time and she's been helping Richard Dodds with it.
That's great. That's great. That is a big asset for her. That and her skills are a big asset for her. Okay, moving on. Nancy, do you have anything for us?
No, I don't.
Okay. Mayor's executive summary, I only have two quick items. Eric, you're going to follow up on the recognition project and assess that and see if it's something we want to, it's not Eric, I think it's Sergio, something we want to look into. Sure, absolutely. Okay, and John, I will get a framed copy of the resolution and we'll get it up to the meeting somehow, okay?
You know where they are.
Yeah, I'll try. Well, I have to go to Bedminster to drop it off, that's where his office is, not up to the meeting.
Oh, what's his office?
Up there's all the executive offices.
Oh, wow.
They go over to Bedminster, by the Bedminster municipal building, that road that leads in. Okay, that's all I have. Public comments on agenda items. Come on up.
You still have to state name and address for the record.
Do I really have to do that again?
Yes, you do.
Carol Lane, 1 Hillard Lane, Gladstone. This is quick. I just wanted to circle back to the police presentation that was made. I seem to recall there was an analysis done, was it by the Somerset County Sheriff's Office, when they were covering the department for a number of months during transition, where they came up with an optimal number for our staff. And I was wondering if you recall that, and is it in concert with what was presented tonight?
It's really an outdated number.
It's an outdated.
Yeah, when they came in and took over, that had to be, what, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
And at the time, the opinion of the supervising sergeant was you are properly staffed with 8. Okay? Now, we've gone beyond that already. Okay? And there will be a day certain when you got close to 10. We just have to get through that, costs, the benefits, future occupants of the town, developments that are planned here and not yet in. But when the police come to us with something like that, we take it very seriously, as I'm sure you imagine. But at the same time, we are the fiduciary responsibility of managing tax dollars.
So as a follow-on to that, I've heard discussion that there are some upcoming retirements that will be hitting us, and
Possible, yes.
possible. And I was just wondering, this one hire that they're looking for now, are we going to be faced with a request shortly to address any pending retirements so that it could be all done at once, perhaps a recruiting class of 2 or 3? I know that's more money, but in the long run, does it prepare us?
It would be great if we could get that many people, to interview and to say yes. But the part of the presentation that they touched on, there really is a dearth of people out there wanting to become police officers now. You know, whether you point to the political issues that are out there, it could be critical of Gen Z, maybe. I'm not sure exactly what it is. But these are really, it's a shame. These are good jobs, you know, especially
Yeah, I know, we're
in
not
these towns.
Irvington or Newark,
You know, apparently some people go to the account and they want to go to the jobs with the actions.
Along those lines, I've noticed what seems like quite a bit of turnover in the force over the years. And I was curious to know, has anybody looked, why is that happening in our police? It seems like, you know, it went up and down.
We had a little bit more in the last 2-3 years.
And are there things that we can do outside the box that might make it attractive? Outside the box being, can we subsidize housing in the borough so that our police force is here? Because I think officers who live here are more invested in the community, like dormitory style living to recruit young single men and women. Just thinking, you know, because you look at those list of items and it's compensation, advancement, well, some things you just can't do anything about, right? But maybe there are benefits we can offer which would be unique and perhaps attract young.
So let me give you 2 comments. First of all, I have to respectfully disagree. I think our turnover has been very low. Our guys stayed for a long time. Steve's been here since 1999. Owen's been here, Tom's been here from almost the same time.
But those are older.
I understand.
Folks.
Even our younger guys. Adam's been here almost 10 years now. Okay, and Adam's one of our younger officers. So we do have it. And when you say that there's turnover, yes.
No, I said that's what it appears to be.
We've had officers resign. Okay, 2 of them, right?
One officer resigned, and an officer resigned under questionable circumstances.
Yeah, I'm being calm.
Okay.
We had 2 officers, one had to leave and one left on his own.
Okay, my perception is correct.
He would have been fired if he did.
But just, you know, throwing out.
I think while we have decent retention, when it comes to that having been said, you know, if a great candidate came in tomorrow and they were on the lower end of the pay scale, I think the council would seriously consider bringing them on just to have them in place for when somebody retires, because we know some retirements could be in. Could be.
We know there are people eligible to put their papers in.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I mentioned that whole idea of, you know, dormitory style living, I know we have some assets.
Oh, let me address that. So a couple of years ago, we explored the idea when we were negotiating with Malolo for affordable housing of setting a couple of the affordable housing units aside for first responders. Okay? And we looked into it at the time and it was not feasible. Because affordable housing has to go through a lottery, we could not dedicate units. And honestly, the developer wasn't keen about it. Because what if you had nobody and the place would get empty when you be collecting rent? So that wasn't feasible. As far as dormitory, the town would have to build it, maintain it, and I'm not sure that's a very practical.
Well, I hate to use that because everybody thinks of dorms like a college room.
Many moons ago, I think it was Paul Morris, when he came on, the Smith House was we just closed on it, and he lived there for a period of time.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You know, whether it's like
and it was a
DPW
win-win because the house was empty. You know, so we had somebody renting it. Yeah, pulling us all.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Good questions. Thank you. Thank you for your support earlier.
You're welcome.
That was very brave of you, by the way.
Sorry?
That was very brave when you spoke
On a police matter?
No, not on a police matter.
Oh, my other one?
Police.
It's
the
just because of what's going on with the library, I've been very sensitive about not getting in the fray of the geese issue. But I will tell a quick, interesting story.
I got a
name and address.
I actually have to relieve the babysitter.
Roundtable discussion in our household, one member kind of thought, you know, it's really not a good idea about geese. And I I, explained some of the, so let's go for a walk. Took my dog for a walk down around the park, didn't want to walk on the path. The person who was in favor of keeping the geese around, I said, why not? Because it's disgusting. And I said, point taken, that's, part of the problem. We need to fix this. And much cleaner, less aggression in the pathways, even with my dog, even with the dog. So, I know there are 8 that seem to have come back, but wholeheartedly
We're still trying to figure out where they went.
the 8, or the,
No,
oh,
50 or so.
yeah,
What happened to them? That's what we say.
There was 9 of them there last night.
yeah, but I almost felt like that.
You asked them where the rest of their friends were?
No, I don't know that language, unfortunately.
Well, there's some woman who speaks geese, so.
I've heard that, yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
All right, any other business from council? Hearing none, motion to adjourn?
No.
We have an
Oh,
executive.
wait, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Session.
Oh, gosh, I completely forgot.
We got,
Motion and a second for resolution number,
127.
127 to 24.
I move to go into executive session.
Okay,
Second.
okay, roll call vote, please.
Good night.
Councilman
Good night,
Forte. Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sueda,
Yes.
Council President Sweeney,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wylie. Aye. Okay,
Okay,
do not
action,
start.
action may or may not be taken after executive session. Now, let's go into executive.
Okay, do not start yet. I have to.
There's nothing to that.
You're
Yeah.
really.
Yes, really.